مساء الخير. أنا أسامة حجي، وبشكركم على إن أنتوا بتحضروا السيشن دي معايا. الموضوع اللي هتكلم فيه النهارده هو السايبر ديترنس from a security operation center perspective. الناس اللي حضروا السيشن بتاعتي probably السنة اللي فاتت لاحظوا إنه أنا دلوقتي دي ثالث سنة بتكلم فيها عن فكرة السايبر ديترنس، وإزاي هي بتختلف عن السايبر سيكيورتي، وليه هي بقت حاجة مهم إن إحنا نعملها. أنا بتكلم specifically هنا عن السيزوز، الشيف انفورميشن سيكيورتي اوفيسرز أو الهيد اوف انفورميشن سيكيورتي، الناس اللي عموما بتليد الانفورميشن سيكيورتي within an organization. مهم جدا ان هم يتبنوا يعني الفاليو بتاعه السايبر ديترنس او الردع السيبراني زي ما بنسميه بالعربي. اتكلمت قبل كده في ليه ده مهم، والنهارده هتكلم عن المساله بتاعه السايبر ديترنس. يعني I will switch to English because some of the session attendees are actually not Arab speakers. So during the previous years, I talked about cyber deterrence and why it's important to be adopted by the information security. The cyber deterrence from the security operations just remind you what is exactly cyber deterrence. So straight into the point, cyber deterrence, as we explained before, is to prevent cybersecurity incidents. This is really important. Cyber resilience, on one hand, deals with cybersecurity incidents. It reacts to cybersecurity incidents. They are exposing themselves to risks that are much bigger than the benefits they will reap from the attack. Some incidents, and you have to manage them. There is nothing you can do about that other than reacting or responding to the incidents. And cyber deterrence is a proactive approach. It's not a reactive approach. Its target is to prevent incidents from happening in the first place, so you don't have to respond to them, or you don't have to incur the impact to prevent, how to react to the offense, how to recover from the offense. Cyber deterrence is focused on the offender, the attacker himself. It targets taking down his infrastructure, exposing his methodologies, exposing the exploits and the vulnerabilities he is using. And detective cyber technologies like SEM and SOAR and NVR and stuff like that. Cyber deterrence use offensive and deceptive cyber technologies. Deceptive cyber technologies use high incident rates for your enterprise. While cyber deterrence does require more money, relatively more money. It's not really lot more money. However, it will lower the incident rates within your enterprise. Cyber deterrence is comparable to a nuclear bomb. That's why you have a nuclear States. They are not really planning to use it. The whole point, excuse me, the whole point of having a nuclear bomb is to deter your enemies. If they know that you have such a terrible weapon, they won't dare to attack you in the first place. That's why no one dares to attack Russia, no one dares to attack India, no one dares to attack France or Britain. I mean, military. They can literally wipe another country from existence because they have nuclear weapons. So nuclear bombs are deterrence weapons. Deterrence in the cyberspace, of course, is not going to be with nuclear bombs, but it will be with actually the idea of targeting the threat actor himself. So the previous slide talked about three terms that are very important to understand the difference between them before we proceed further with this presentation. What is the difference between a risk and a threat? What is the difference between a threat and an incident? To make things simple, I have made a small animation that portrays a risk, threat, and incident from business perspective. The fence around him is our security controls. As you can see in this case, this case labeled risk. Actually, it's let me switch on my laser pointer. There we go. There is the word risk here. طيب اغير الكونكشن يعني؟ طيب ماشي، انا هغير الكونكشن دلوقتي. شكرا. We have a technical problem. I need to change my connection. Just one moment, please. deterrence is achieved from a security operation center perspective. The example of risk. So as you can see here, there is a fence around the business. This fence represents the security controls we have in the enterprise protecting our business, represent. Okay, so I'm sorry for the technical glitch we have faced. Only 30 minutes to finish the presentation. So we'll get, I will have to make this short. This to be around in the last 4 or 5 years. It's I better start the presentation to explain what cyber deterrence is. I went through this last year, but I will just give you a brief definition right now. Cyber deterrence is to try to prevent incidents from happening. So it's between cyber deterrence and cyber resilience. Both of them are cybersecurity mechanisms. When you look at cybersecurity from a management perspective, they are both cybersecurity mechanisms. However, cyber deterrence works on preventing incidents, while cyber resilience works on managing incidents. So how does cyber deterrence work? By ensuring that in the mind of the threat actors, the hackers or the attackers, the risk of conducting a hacking operation or a cyber attack outweighs its benefits. So I'm basically trying to scare the hackers, scare the attackers. I'm trying to convince them on my enterprise. Any benefits they will gain from this attack is outweighed by the risks and the damages the attacker might incur by actually attacking my enterprise. There is a small comparison here between cyber resilience and cyber deterrence. In cyber resilience, we are in active mode. There is nothing we can do about the attacker, and we are a punching bag. The attacker is all the time trying to hit us, and all we can do is to react to the incidents he is causing. In cyber deterrence, we are in the proactive mode. We are trying to prevent the incidents because our focus, and this is what the second line says, our focus is the offender, not the offense itself. So I'm spending some of my time not handling incidents, but handling the cause of the incidents, the attacker himself. So in cyber resilience, we are focused on the offense. In cyber deterrence, we are focused on the offender. In cyber resilience, we are trying to defend our own infrastructure. So this is our target. We need to defend our infrastructure from attacks and from incidents and stuff like that. In cyber deterrence, we are trying to take the offender infrastructure down. So if he is using zombie computers, we're trying to take his zombie network down. Or botnet, we are trying to take it down. We are trying to block the IPs he is using to communicate. If there are vulnerabilities or certain techniques he is using, we will patch those vulnerabilities. We will put some security controls to block the techniques he is using. In cyber resilience, we are using defensive and detective cyber technologies. defensive technologies like firewalls, IPS, and stuff like that, detective cyber technologies like SIEM, EDR, NDR. In cyber deterrence, we are using offensive tools and deceptive cyber technologies. Everyone knows what offensive tools is. Deceptive here means, in particular, honeypots, which are basically traps that you set within your organization to lure the attackers in falling in them. And attackers are usually very offended by traps for multiple reasons we will discuss later on. Cyber resilience is a low-cost solution for cybersecurity. However, the incident rate in cyber resilience compared to cyber deterrence is very high. So maybe you spend less money, but you are as well less secure. In cyber deterrence, you will make in some areas some high investments. However, you will decrease very much the incident rates compared to cyber resilience. So please focus on this slide. There are three terms here on this slide that you need to observe. I will just switch my laser pointer. There is the term incident and the term threat and the term risk. Please remember those three terms because without fluffy looking sheep, the risk here is clearly the fence height around the fence. That's why we call this risk. Something might jump over the fence, but there is absolutely nothing around the fence as we speak. The threat is a little bit similar to the risk, however, with only one difference. There is a big, bad gray wolf outside the fence. So at this point, it's not just a risk that the fence is low. There is as well a wolf outside he did not attack the sheep yet, but I don't think that the wolf is standing beside the fence because he is counting the spikes. He's here to attack the business, and when he does attack the business, that's actually what an incident is. So this is an incident when the attacker actually impacts the business and jumps inside our security controls. This is basically the difference between risk, threat, and they might be really some the executive the executive management of investing money you need in security, and most likely it's either they will give you the money you need in cybersecurity, or they will fire you and give the money to someone else because you failed to prevent the attacker from hacking or attacking clear present dangers that are on the fence. They are right out there. They are not there, as I said, to manage an attack like this one. Or you can invest in your cybersecurity because there are clear present dangers and not reach. We tend to view security either from a risk perspective, which again, I repeat, for the people working in information security or cybersecurity management, the risk is a very good approach. But there are incidents and and dangers and threats happen. In security, we have things already happening. We have to deal with them. how to convince management, this is the big question mark, how to convince management that we need to invest in secures before an incident occurs. That's actually through threat management. Threat management, I'm saying that it's a lost value because when you look at how most of the enterprises are implementing so threat management has as well its own people, and surprisingly, some people might think that only level 3 threat hunters are working on the threat management overall process. Actually, level 1 analysts on threat management. How level 1 famous among those are honeypots. Honeypots are traps we set within an organization so we can detect the activity of malicious actors. Sandboxes as well are used in threat management because you might notice at some point that there is a piece of software we don't know, there is no virus, there is no antivirus detecting it as a malware. We will need to take this piece of software and put it in a sandbox. This is the idea, probably the strange thing you will take out of this session. When should we implement threat management? Technically speaking, most of the organization, as I said before, they will implement, if talking about banks, for example, out of 38 banks in Egypt, we have around 50% or less of these banks having a proper free threat hunting team. So the usual sequence, enterprises, so they start by building the lowest levels, then they start implementing the higher levels. What I'm suggesting here is it's better actually for your security to perform a top to bottom approach. So please, the only the SOC architect. In many institutions, the SOC manager is the same person as the SOC architect. The SOC manager is basically an operation manager, as his name says. He is responsible for hiring the people working in the SOC, managing the operation itself, ensuring that offenses are handled, incidents are handled. Architect who decides as well which tools are going to be used in the SOC. So the only thing that should come first before hiring a team of threat hunters is actually hiring your SOC manager and SOC architect. They can be the same person, by the way. Nowadays, most of email and security gateways come with advanced threat protection. They come with a sandbox. So you don't really have to buy a sandbox specifically for your threat hunters. Okay, so IPS is in your demilitarized zone to mimic your internet banking. You can just put a server that has the same, a virtual machine that has the same operating system, copy the software, hunting, and they can create their own tools. They have the ability to do this. Unlike, by the way, level 1 teams. Level 1 team is 5 people. Threat hunters, at most you will have to hire 2 people. The salary of a threat hunter could be double the salary of a level 1 SOC analyst. However, you have to buy the percentage of false positives is somewhere between 60 to 70%. You are detecting some security offenses, but most of the time you are detecting bullshit, false positives. They are or threat hunting and stuff like that cannot be competent unless he actually did level 2 and level 1 jobs as well. He understands what detection and response is. So when those people are on board and you decide to expand your SOC in the future, when level 1 and level 2 joins, there is someone to coach them and mentor them. There is someone at least who understands security better than them and can guide them in resolving incidents and understands the behavior of attackers and malware when there is no technical in numbers. So when you do the math, actually you will end up paying less money for hiring 2 resources in threat hunting than hiring 5 or 4 in level 2 or level 1. It's actually less expensive and more cost effective. Threat response function, and this is really important. Level 3 will actually detect your attacker. This is the most important point about threat management. Your infrastructure, your own identity has been divulged, have been discovered. So the real targets that you were lured into attacking their fake similar targets are going to be protected against your techniques and the vulnerabilities, and against you in person, your IP and your infrastructure. You gained nothing, and you disclosed yourself. This will actually, scaring the attackers will cause a decrease in an incidents, because no attacker wants to target such an organization where there is people setting traps for him inside the organization. No attacker wants to incur the risk of doing such a thing. So you will notice actually when you hire threat hunters that the amount of incidents, the real incidents due to attacks, will decrease eventually. How does threat management achieve the they didn't achieve anything. So they eventually run away and decide not to attack this enterprise again. It's called a Sherman. It was used in World War II. So the deception technologies are actually very, very, very old. This is how deception actually is achieved. Attackers' technique, as well as we said, are revealed, and methodologies are revealed. Attacks into attacking fake targets. I'm talking about exact attacker persists in the loop of deception, the more their infrastructure identity are revealed, and hence they can be taken down. You have heard that the FBI and the Interpol and the Europol took recently many zombie networks, botnets and stuff like that. It was